Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd, as well as my friends over at yarnspirations.com. You're not seeing double, you're seeing two different motifs, but the same motifs done in the crochet diagram. Which one is right? Well, I have to tell you. I'm going to show you some tricks today to determine if you're reading the diagram from right to left or left to right, and which one is actually correct. One of the misconceptions of crochet is that people believe that the diagrams are written for right-handed people. In actual fact, they're not right or left. They are actually done for both. And when you actually just remove one, both left hand and right hand are successful. Now, how is that even possible? Well, that's because it's the way that you're reading it. Let's talk about that. In North America and many other countries, we read language the same way. We read from left to right, and once we've read that, we progress down and go back left and then to right again. Now, crochet diagrams are not read in the same kind of way. They are read like a roadmap to being able to follow. So let me explain back on the diagram. When you read crochet diagrams, you're not reading from left to right or the right to left. You are actually following the path like breadcrumbs. So what you want to do is that you want to follow, and let's just say we're going to follow this particular crochet stitch right here. Now we can go in either direction. We can either follow it this way or we can follow it that way. But we should be following it in a way that makes sense for the pattern. My point being is that you can put two double crochets into one and continue in either direction and follow the instructions in either way, and you'll still get the same result. But the reality is that where it's starting and stopping is the answer on which way you're reading it. So these are both identical, and I have flipped one upside down. Other than the writing being backwards, you can tell that this is the original, but you can still crochet it when it's like this. The secret to know which direction that you're crocheting is in the slip stitch itself. Do you see how that the slip stitch is on the right hand side of the chain? So as an experienced crocheter, we chain up a certain number and then we start with our next set of instructions. It is very rare, and I've never really seen it at all, for us to chain and then our next symbol is a slip stitch. Slip stitching, when we come back in a round circle, is always the last thing to be done. This means that when we go to crochet up our chain 3, we're progressing left, and that we know that when we hit the slip stitch, we slip it and then we start and go up and follow the path and chain again and start and then come back around and do the slip stitch. Now the other diagram was backwards. Let's take a look at that. When you see when you flipped it, you still did your chain 4 and you still did your chain 3. But we know that the slip stitch is now on this side, so my eyes are immediately going to go right. So we chain up 3, we start our instructions, and the slip stitch is in the last set of instruction before joining, before moving up into the next round. So what we can do is that we can still do the same thing, but instead of following from the other direction that we were in the other one, we can follow this way. The only difference is that you follow what stitches in the next stitch. So it doesn't matter if it's left or right. You just need to follow your eyes to make it so. This here is one of my crochet diagrams for a tutorial that I just finished, and I write all this stuff on the side so that I have it for my notes when I'm working on the tutorial work. In my case, I usually start on the left hand side and I chain across and I come up and then I go back over. Not everybody starts on the left. Some people start on the right. How do you know if a designer has started on the right or the left? The answer is right here. It's in the chain work that you see when progressing to row number 1. In crochet, we have to start off with the chain, and we usually double back on the chain for row number 1. In order to do row number 1, we have to chain up at least 1 in order to come back across this. So even if it was a single crochet. So what I would be looking for is that chain that is not part of the first stitch work at all. And so because the chain to progress up to row number 1 is on this side, I know that I started here. So when I progress, I'm going to do all my reading of the chains, and in this case I have 12 12 and it's a multiple of 4, which works out, and then my first line I go from right to left. Now my next line that I do, I don't restart back over on the one side. It's not like reading like a paragraph. So you follow the path and it's telling you to chain up 4 here and then progress along this one here. and in row number 3 again following the path. So crochet diagrams are like following the path when it comes to going back and forth, and I could have literally did my starting chain on this side, and what it would have been doing instead, that this chain work of it would have existed over here and this would be over there. It wouldn't matter because you're still following it in progressive order when it comes to doing these diagrams. So essentially in the end you're looking for the slip stitching when it comes to your circles, on what side that it is when it's on the chain work that you see. In this case I'll be reading to the left. On this one here, on the rows, I'm looking to where the chain is existing to advance me to row number 1. Therefore this is where I'm starting, so I'm going to start and progress this way. Both of these can be flipped in the other direction and you'll still have the same result, and so therefore there's no such thing as right or left-handed diagrams when it comes to crochet. So until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of the Crochet Crowd, as well as my friends over at yarnspirations.com.